Hello everyone, this is Felicia Malone and I'm here to review the Power season finale. I have to apologize for its tardiness. I was out of town and then, I really didn't enjoy this episode. I'm sorry. It had a couple of oh my gosh moments, but overall, I have to preface this with saying that I think the writing is getting a little schizo and a little lazy. It's like they're holding our hands like we're 2-year-olds, like, this is going to happen next. Please remember this. This is a clue. This is a clue. And I'm just like, come on. I think what they do is they have a bunch of writers and then they pair off in writing the episodes. But I'm like, too many cooks spoil the broth, okay? But enough of that ranting. Let's get into the episode. So when it starts off, we have Crazy Greg. I think I called him last time the mouse detective. So we start off with Greg, and he is, he finds out via phone call that Ruiz is dead. So then he goes out to the scene of the crime because Tommy stabbed him and left him under this bridge or whatever. So he goes out and he's talking to the cop there, and he asks if he could, be the body because he wants to get the button from Ruiz. And remember that button doubles as a wiring device. It doesn't send a signal. So he has to actually have the physical button in order to retrieve the recording. So he gets that, and we see on the side of the road, James is there because earlier Tommy had told him he killed Ruiz. Tasha had told Tommy, if you recall from last time, that James had a plan to take out Milan, and she's afraid that if it fails, Milan is going to kill her and her kids. So she tells Tommy to stop the plan, because the plan is that James was going to have Ruiz get Milan on tape, have him rat him out to the feds, and the feds, take care of Milan. But secretly Tommy wants to still run the drug game. So he needs Milan's network. So he stabs and kills Ruiz. He enlists the help of Dre, and they leave him under this bridge. So Greg Knox, when he finds out he's dead, he goes to the bridge, retrieves the button. So we see him later listening to the recording, and he's listening to it with his mentor, and his mentor is basically telling him he feels like he's hit gold because he has the voice of Tommy Egan saying, yeah, me and Ghost killed Lobos. So he has this confession. He also has Tommy killing Ruiz on the recording. But his mentor is telling him, like, dude, if you take them out, you're going to take yourself down too, because you had a CI off the books, which is Ruiz. You put him in grave danger. You got him killed. And you got this illegal recording that you can't admit, that's inadmissible in court. So it just goes to show you that, man, Angie must be some type of woman, because she got these men losing their ever-loving mind. Greg can't think straight. Jamie/Ghost can't think straight. And she drives Tommy absolutely bonkers because he hates her. But yeah, so speaking of James, after he sees them retrieve Ruiz's body, he calls Angela. He's like, am I being indicted, or is Tommy being indicted for the Lomos murder? And she's all annoyed, and she's like, look, I would tell you if I knew. He's like, well, I don't trust that you would. And she's like, what, you don't trust me? Well, trust that I will look out for you when it's in my best interest. So, of course, James, being James, he wants to take matters into his own hands. And he goes and breaks into Greg Knox's apartment. While he's in there, Angela comes home. And so it's like this little suspenseful scene where you think she's going to catch him. She doesn't. But he leaves the apartment. He breaks in through the window. He jimmies it open. And so when he closes it, he drops his tool. He takes off his glove and touches the window. And I'm just like, writer, seriously, this is so connect the dots. painting with numbers type of writing, because you know that his fingerprints are on this window and it's going to come back to, to haunt him. So later on, we see it's kind of like this cat and mouse game between Greg and James. He's trying to, arrest him, and then James breaks into his apartment, and later we see Greg stops James while he is driving to Truth, and, he pulls him over. So he's antagonizing him, saying, I know you killed Lobos, and James was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he gets in his face, and he's like, yeah, Angela doesn't trust you, that's why she let me back in. And, he's really trying to get him to get out of his element so that he has a reason to arrest him. But he doesn't cop. And so he tries to flip him. He says, you have the most to lose. You have your clubs. You have your family. We all know Angela's dirty. But of course, James is not going to flip on Angela, especially for Greg. I mean, come on. So, later, we see Tommy meets up with Milan, and one of Milan's guys is escorting Tommy, and so then Milan tells him to get skedaddle, and he's just looking at him, and he basically tells him to go run and play with the other little boys. So he emasculates him, and this is another one of those moments that I'm just like rolling my eyes, because it was so cliche and so, I don't know, rudimentary. So we see later on, Tommy meets up with this guy, and he thinks Tommy's going to kill him, and he's like, look, how does it feel being punked by Milan? And he has a plan, but I got to know if you're down. And I'm thinking to myself, so Milan is this ruthless, people-eating, psychotic killer, and you can turn his man against him just because of one insult? I mean, how many times has Ghost insulted Tommy? His intelligence. And he's still loyal. I mean, come on. But all of that to say, I'm just going to get this part out of the way. Tommy, Dre, and his dudes, we see them in Truth because they have this big, huge gala that, because of the competing club owners, they were arrested last week for selling drugs in their own club, which Jamie set them up. Well, now Jamie swooped in and he got this big party with Karen Bassett. So at this party, Tommy, who's calling the shots from last episode, he says, look, this is the only time, this is when Milan will be the most vulnerable, we have to get him there. So we see this scene where Dre and all his guys are coming in, and they kind of set it up as if they're going to rob the club. But we later see that each guy takes on one of Milan's guys, and they pull guns on them while people are partying in the club. And then Tatiana tries to run up on Ghost while he has Milan. And Tasha comes out of the cut with the gun, and she's like, try it. Itch. I don't cuss, but that's what Tasha says. So we do see Tasha turn up a little bit, and fast forward, Tommy, Milan, Ghost, they're in that same warehouse, and they basically, they're doing all this talking back and forth, and he was just basically, I was like, I underestimated you, and then they're like, no, you underestimated us. And as a team, they both like point the guns, and they just plow him full of holes. And it was just like, the boys are back in town, the boys are back in town. So after that, I have to get to this scene because this annoyed me as well. Poor little Tariq. Okay, the actor who plays Tariq, he's a handsome, nice young man, and I'm pretty sure he's very intelligent. But they're writing Tariq to be the slowest, bougie black boy ever, because, okay, even I know you don't take a strange package over to somebody's homie in the hood. I mean, you don't have to be street smart to know that. But Kanan has, he's schooling Tariq about girls, and they're sipping lean and bonding over the lean. And Kanan's just like, look, I want you to, Tariq's like, I have to go to school. He's like, yeah, I want you to do something for me. He gives him this package. It's all neatly wrapped and whatnot. and I want you to take this over to my boy Ray Ray. And so Tariq's like, what is it? So Kate's like, nah, you ain't ready, because if you were ready, you would have known not to ask me that. And then Tariq's, I'll do it. I'll take it. Where is he? So he takes this package over to Ray Ray. Ray Ray was like, nah, man, not here. And then he pulls him into the alley. So when he opens it, he sees it's a gun. Ray Ray puts the gun in his waist or whatever. And then he pulls out handcuffs and he's like, you're under arrest. So he arrests Tariq. They take him to a squad car. And whose squad car is it but old Jukebox? I was like, oh, snap. This was a highlight of the show because I'm glad to see Nika Noni Rose, back as Jukebox. So they have the guy who's playing Ray Ray and Anika, they have him in the car and they're trying to scare him, like, tell me who gave you these guns. Well, they're going to do this and do that to you in juvie and you're going to embarrass your parents. They're really trying to just lay it on him, and Tariq doesn't crack. He doesn't crack. So then Kanan comes into the car and she's like, yeah, your boy, he didn't crack. So let's fast forward. They get to the house, and Tariq's doing too much talking, all high on the lean, and he lets it slip that they're really, really rich. So then Jukebox is like, shoes, what you plan on doing with this dude? She's talking to Kanan on the side. He's like, I'm going to hustle his rich friends, which seems so dumb. Like, they make Kanan, when he's in the scene with Jukebox, they really make him seem like he's an idiot and she's the brains behind the whole, the whole system or whatever. And she's like, nah, forget that. He's the hustle. Ransom him. And then we could kill him anyway. So they put something in the lean, and then Tariq's all like, oh, this tastes different. I don't know what's happening. I'm so sleepy. So he gets knocked out, and then they show Kanan taking off his jacket and posing with them. And he snaps this picture. He sends it to Tasha. So keep that in mind. So, okay. So James broke into Greg Knox's apartment. He later meets with Angela. Before this happens, Greg is so certain that Angela's a leak, he calls Mike, and he's like, meet me in my apartment. Earlier in the scene, he had called the Federales to check on Mike Sandoval. Said he got the tip from Agent Rivera about the Lobos meeting. So Mike calls the Federales. They're like, we have to call you back. So while Mike is at Greg's apartment, he's just like, yeah, Angela's a leak. I got this great information. Ring, ring, ring. Who is it? Conveniently, the Federales, while Mike is in his apartment. So they're telling him Agent Rivera doesn't exist. He's been like gone a year or whatever, or dead a year or something like that. So then the wheels in Mouse Detective Greg's head starts turning, and he knows that Mike is the leak. And instead of him playing it cool, he's just like, yeah, so, what you know about that Lobos killer? Huh? So he's trying to like him Mike up, and Mike is basically like, look, he threatened my family, and then he gets the night, he's like, we can still pin it on Angela, we know she's dirty, and then Mike's like, Greg's like, yeah, she's dirty, but not on this. I'm gonna take you in. And I'm just like, he cannot be this stupid. Or the writing cannot be this, well, I don't want to insult the writers, because I really do like the show, and I enjoy it because I think it's written smartly. I just think these last couple episodes, they're trying to push the plot or push the drama so much that it's starting to not make sense. Or it's too, like they're holding your hand and they're making everything so obvious. But anyway, Mike kills Greg. And he kills him in like the craziest way. He pulls the gun, and then Greg's like, oh, no, wait, we can, do this. Your daughter's going to know you're a murderer. We can work it out. I'll just take you in. You'll get a deal. So then he lowers the gun. And then Greg goes up like he's going to take the gun from Mike. And then he shoots him just right here. And if that ain't bad enough, Greg's backing up and he has his hand, and he shoots it through the hand. And he's better than dead. So then Mike leaves. Angela comes home because she's seeing Greg now, and sees all her partners there, and she's like, "Yeah, what's going on?" And then she sees Greg's body, and she like loses it. So she meets up with Jamie, and they're supposed to be talking about the whole Ruiz thing or whatever. And James keeps saying things like, "I'll do anything for you. If anybody was gonna hurt you, I'd do anything." And so in the back of Angela's mind, she's like, "Oh snap, he killed Greg." So make sure I'm not missing anything. No, so while they are at Truth and they take out Milan, it looks like James has won again. He's gotten everything, he wanted. Milan's out of his hair. Karen Bassett, they signed the contracts. It's all gravy, and in walks Angela. And while Tasha's still there, she just saved his life, mind you. He wants to run over and kiss Angela. It's like, "I still love you," blah, blah, blah. And this little chica has Black Donovan with her, and she arrests him. And he's like, "I don't understand why you're doing this." And she's like, "I don't understand why you did this. I loved you." And they're all just super duper lame. I'm sorry. I don't like the direction this is going. I don't know what I would have done differently. Yeah, so he gets arrested. He gets taken out in front of Karen Bassett, in front of her dad, in front of everybody at the biggest party. And that's it for his scene. Then we cut to, Tariq being kidnapped. And when Kanan takes the picture with him, then he sends it to Tasha's phone. And it kind of ends with Tasha talking to Raina. And Raina's just like, "Yeah, Tariq's hanging out his friend Slim." And she's like, "Slim?" And when she looks at the phone, she just loses it. So, yeah, that was the episode. So poor Lakeisha still lost in some weed bundle somewhere because nobody mentioned her. But they are setting it up for next season. So we have Tariq, who's been kidnapped. We have James St. Patrick, who has been arrested. We have Tommy, who's killed Milan, and he said that he's still going to sell drugs out of Truth. So he's like the big kingpin now. And we have Angela. Now, this is what I understand. How can Angela arrest James when she is the one who told him about Lobos? And she's been feeding him information all this time. So she is dirty. That's something the writers have to make sense, or it's going to drive me nuts. Like, how can she be so high and mighty to arrest him? When if he really wanted to burn her, he really could. So, yeah, let me know what you think. I do apologize for the late review, but yeah, I just wasn't that excited about this episode.